Happy Friday evening, everybody. It's Erin from She Ties Flies and Alex here behind the camera. We got some new equipment over the past couple of days. We're really excited to try it out. Chat, if you're there, if you can hear me, go ahead and post something so we know that our audio is working, our cameras are working good for you. I am going to tie a Gray Goose Midge emerger. I'm going to start from hook in vise and move forward. Talk a little bit about what I'm doing. Hopefully you can sit back and relax. But also I welcome questions. Questions about me personally, questions about fly tying, questions about life, the universe, and everything. So sit back, relax, enjoy, and hopefully I get to hear from some of you. Okay, good. All right, so I'm going to be working on a size 10 scud hook in Pretty Gold, one of my favorites. And a 50 denier GSP nylon thread. It's not nylon, but and it's fiddly, but I like to wrap around and then slide down my hook till I'm where I want and then bite in. There we go. Check out these called squizzers from Umpqua. Thanks to the folks at Umpqua because they sent these to me and I absolutely love them. I'm going to wrap back to the bend of the hook here. It's an interesting angle that I tie these at in order to get a good video so you guys get to see that I kind of tie at an angle. Makes it a little bit fun, a little more challenging, but it makes a better video for everybody watching. How long did it take me to get good at fly tying? Well, thank you for the compliment, first of all. I started fly tying January of this year, so I haven't been tying long. So I'd say about that long. I, still have a lot to learn. I'm actively working with some mentors in the industry to get better and learn more. But since January, so how many months is that? Where are we? 8 months or so. Yeah, I've been a fiber artist for over a decade. If you could see the rest of this room, I don't know if you can see the loom behind me. I've got some fabric that I wove myself from wool. I've sort of enjoyed a long and unabashed love affair with wool in particular. I spin, knit, weave, sew, felt, you name it, I do it with wool. I've actually got a cabinet full of yarn over here to the side. So I've had a fiber background for a long time. And when I started dating a fly fisherman, I've been fishing spinners, your traditional rod and reel for my whole life. But when I started dating a fly fisherman and he showed me his modest fly tying materials collection, I lost my mind because you're telling me that fly tying is essentially fiber arts, and then I get to go catch fish on these flies. And I never looked back. And I've been sort of lightly obsessed since then. So that's how that started. All right. I've got some very fine silver wire here. don't do what I did, which is to take the tape off of the end of the wire and then let it spring out like a slinky, because it gets all kinked. So I have to go through and find an unkinked bit of wire. And I'll use what's quickly become one of my favorite tools in my arsenal, which are these cuticle nippers, to cut this thin wire. You'll want actual wire cutters for thicker wire, but this does fine for the thinner wire. And we're going to tie in what will ultimately be our rib first. I tie in that wire on the belly of the fly. I try to tie it evenly, because ultimately I'm going to be wrapping some gray goose shoulder feather fibers around this shank, and I want to make sure that I have an even base so that shank, when I wrap that around and form a body, that body is uniformly thick. Next, and this is one of my favorite things to do, I've got gray goose shoulder feather, and I'm going to pull 4 hurls from this feather. Hurls are these individual feather fibers, and it's really cool. I don't know if my camera can focus on this.
Dr. Jason wants to know what fly you're tying.
Oh, Dr. Jason, this is the Gray Goose Midge Emerger. So this is supposed to mimic a fly pupae transforming into its adult form. It emerges out of whatever water it's been laid in, and that's what this fly mimics, and the fish love them. Are we focused in on that hurl?
We are.
Okay. So the hurl, microscopically, is incredibly fascinating. These individual hurls actually Velcro to each other, and you can sort of zip them and unzip them. And in some of the classic salmon and trout fly tying, folks will take hurl from different feathers or different color feathers and marry them together and create beautiful patterns just by combining these sort of naturally zipping up fibers. It's really kind of a cool thing. So I've got 4 here. And I will snip off the tips. And this is always fiddly for me, and I know that there's probably a better way to do it, but as I stated, I'm learning. So I want to get these feathers tied right on the bottom of my shank, just like my wire is. So I get them tied in and wrap back, and I'll neaten that up in the front in a moment. So I wrap back to that starting point and then wrap forward. It's probably a good time to note that there are tyers that do this much faster and much more efficiently than I do. When I started tying at my kitchen counter with Alex's vise and materials, I found the process very meditative and calming. That was one of the reasons I decided to infuse our early videos with ASMR, was because for me, it had that meditative quality. There's something especially hypnotic about that kind of centrifugal motion of rotating around a shank, which is rotating in a vise. There's something very cool there. And I really love fiddly detail work. It's just a part of my personality, something I've loved for a long time. It's why I knit and weave and do those things. So this can be done much faster. You'll see people just zooming with their thread around the shank, and that's wonderful. You need that kind of skill when you're out on the water if you're going to be fishing, and you lost your last fly, you need to tie one up really quick, or they're not biting what you're throwing, so you need to tie up something different. My style is slow and purposeful, deliberate, calm, and I love it.
I got a good question.
Sure, go for it.
Somebody said that Clown Chat said they find it impressive. You've only been tying since January. What inspired you to start making videos tying?
This is actually a cool story. Really quick, I'm just going to say that as I'm wrapping here, I'm continuing to wrap again to get that uniform shank size so that when I wrap these feathers around, I've got a uniform body. So when I started tying with Alex's little collection of fly tying materials, I was hooked. And those that know me know that when I'm hooked on something, I'm really enjoying it, I go all in. And I knew I needed more materials. I needed all the things. I wanted to try a million different styles of tying, particularly saltwater. I'm here in Tampa, Florida. We've got the Alafaya River over here that leads out to the bay where we fish. We have an incredible fishery here. So I went on Facebook Marketplace to try to find some fly tying materials, and I found just a really cool haul of feathers and thread and flash and chenille and all sorts of things, and bought those from a guy named Matt Hoover, who it turned out was a fly fisherman and also a charter captain for 30 years, taught fly fishing, taught casting, and he had just recently retired and hung up his captain's hat. And in speaking with him, he mentioned to me that he had originated a fly, invented a fly that Orvis sold for 7 years, and it was in their catalog. He sent me a picture, and when I got his things in the mail, of course, a lot of the materials were materials to make that fly. And I said, well, I'd love to try it. Can you send me some instructions? He sent me a really old video of a friend tying it, but it was lower quality just due to the age, the year he took the video. And I said to Alex, wouldn't it be fun if I tied this and we got a video of me tying it to send to Matt as a thank you for, sort of sending me his materials and chatting. And when we recorded that first video, both Alex and I stood back from the camera sort of reviewing and knew we had something special. I felt like some of those meditative qualities that I get out of fly tying were present there and were translating into the video. Alex was really happy with the composition and how we'd managed to make the video look. So we posted it, thinking we were creating a little passion project for just us and maybe a few friends. And in no way, shape, or form did we expect for anyone to appreciate it as much as folks have. And we are sort of eternally grateful and still shocked, 7 months later, however long it's been. So that's how I got started, and that's how we've posted our first video.
What type of camera are you using?
Oh, that's a good question. That's more an Alex question.
We're using the Sony A7S III and the Canon 5D Mark IV currently. We have you considered whispering or soft-spoken explanations of the materials and techniques you're using to tie? I'm thinking he's talking about our main videos.
Absolutely, in the main videos. We have. So this is interesting. As content creators, it's interesting. That's a new thing for me to call myself. And I think Alex has been creating content, for a lot longer than I have. But as content creators, it can be difficult to walk the line. We're never going to, satisfy everyone. There are going to be people who, want the fly tied quick. They just want to see how it's made and move on with their day. We're going to have people that want whispering throughout the video. We're going to have people that really appreciate no talking at all. We're going to have people that love music behind the video, and folks for whom the music kind of ruins their viewing or ASMR experience. And so we've talked about different ways we could vary that content and sort of take different preferences into consideration. It gets a little challenging on the YouTube side when you post more than one version of videos. So like say one with music and one without, because it's possible to be flagged for duplicate content and things like that. But we've definitely explored the idea of soft-spoken or whispering videos. I know those are the types of videos I love to go to sleep to personally. I watch ASMR most nights to go to bed. So we're definitely looking into adding that into the workflow and what that might look like. Because the truth is, we love doing these videos. It's been just such an amazing passion project for us, and the encouragement we've received has been phenomenal. I tell Alex all the time, somehow we got the nicest comment section on YouTube. I don't know how it happened, but folks are just absolutely wonderful. So we're wanting to make sure we know that we need to provide value. We know that people have a lot of ways they can spend their time. They spend their time watching our things, our content. We're eternally grateful. And we want to give people what they want. So we're looking at ways to do that, whether it's hosting on other platforms or, maybe just alternating content. But yeah, I think a whispered or soft-spoken video could be a really good idea.
Rob's got a cool tactic. He said, wax your thread so you need fewer turns of the thread to hold the materials. Introduce the fibers from behind the hook at a 45-degree angle to help you catch them in at the bottom of the shank.
Thank you, Rob. Oh my goodness, I love suggestions. I've learned so much from folks who've been doing this. That's the kind of the beauty of fly tying. It's recipe based, and a lot of tips and tricks and recipes are handed down. And there's a lot to be learned from folks who've been doing this forever, like waxing your thread to grip your materials better is a really awesome tip, and I'll do that. I love the 45-degree angle. I think I know that, and then I don't do it half the time. So
Dominique said we didn't know how much we needed this until now.
Oh, thanks, Dominique. I didn't know how much I needed this until now. This is fun.
You got to shout out Tampa.
Oh, okay, Tampa. I should probably talk about what I just did. So I took these gray feather hurl fibers, and I wrapped them around the shank. They fuzz up like this a little bit, which is what we want. We want to get a little body going here. This is just, by the way, like an eyelash, utensil, but it works well for my purposes. So I'll just fuzz that up a little bit. And then once I got done wrapping those fibers, I just tied them down here near the eye of the hook. This wire now, I'm going to counter wrap, and that's for durability and also for a little segmentation. So where I took my fibers this way around the hook, I'm going to wrap my wire the opposite direction. And I think I know it's for durability, and I would assume it's because if things start to unravel, it's hard for things to unravel in two directions at once. And here, the name of the game is to keep your wraps pretty well parallel. See, I get quiet because I don't want to mess it up. Be prepared, by the way. I make mistakes all the time. I will drop the wire and have it unravel and have to start again. I will accidentally cut my thread. It happens. You know, somebody recently said, maybe I'm the Bob Ross of of fly tying, in which case I would call those happy little accidents. So just be prepared. I'm still new at this. I'm still learning every day. And I think, you know, if I was too afraid to make mistakes, then I wouldn't be on here with all of you. All right, counter wrapped that wire for a rib. Pretty parallel wraps. Now, where before we had 4 fibers that we tied in for our wing case, we're actually going to grab 6. It sounds easier than it is, but let's see. 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Okay.
You're watching from Australia.
Australia. All right, I've been to Australia. I'll tell you guys a little bit about me. How about that? I was a military spouse for about 14 years, and we traveled quite a bit. I've been to 40 countries. I've lived in Guam. I've lived in Germany. And I visited Australia. I visited Cairns, and that's as far as I got, but it was phenomenal. I got to dive the Great Barrier Reef. I was fortunate enough to do so. I will admit, I was fairly convinced at any given point I was going to look up and see a white shark. And that would be the last thing I see. But I didn't. I saw plenty of sharks, but no white sharks. And it was a phenomenal trip.
P-Rice says, are we live on any other platforms? I don't know we're working.
Yeah, we are working on getting live on other platforms. This was a fun test this evening. Just
do you want to go live on TikTok or not?
Are we not?
We can do it. No, I forgot to set up your phone. We'll do it another time.
So yes, we're able to go live on other platforms. We're gonna probably go live on what, 3?
TikTok, maybe
Twitch,
Facebook, Instagram.
maybe Instagram, maybe Facebook. We have a software program where we can go live across several. So we'll probably do that. We just wanted to start small and see how it went. Oop, see, I'm gonna drop things.
Another Love Your Flies, also from us.
What part of Australia? I can ask.
Luke.
I can ask them questions, right?
B-Rice and Luke, of course.
Where are you guys from in Australia?
B-Rice says Twitch is what I'm after.
Twitch, okay.
Tell them we're gonna set you up with something, so I don't have to read you questions.
Oh yeah, that's. We weren't sure how this first one would go, but we're sort of fans of just try it and see. But we do plan on having like maybe a monitor set up so that I can, Alex can push me questions and I can read them. So that's the plan. So poor Alex won't have to sit back there being the Jamie of She Ties Flies.
I enjoy it.
All right, so I tied these fibers on here. These are going to act as our wing casing. I'm going to pull them over our peacock curl that I'm going to add next.
Queensland, and then we got one, how do you fish your flies? from Canada?
Do I fish my flies? The short answer is yes, where applicable. I'm in Tampa, so I try to fish the saltwater flies that make sense for the species in my area. That said, I am new to fly fishing, which surprises a lot of people. But having told you my fiber arts background, I sort of backed into fly fishing from fly tying, which is admittedly a little unorthodox, but that's how I did it. So I'm still learning to fly fish. My cast is improving, and I've got Alex to show me, as well as some of my friends at the local fishing outfitters. But yes, I do. All right, I'm going to pick some peacock herl. This is my favorite. I'm pretty sure my favorite material. I can't think of anything I like more.
Want me to grab focus?
Yeah, if you can. It's kind of tough because it's
Oh, it looks good. It's focus.
all shiny. All right, so I do have a technique here, and I'm not going to claim it as my own because who knows, probably there's somebody out here that does this, but how I do this is I'll grab 2 peacock herls, but I try to grab one that's stiffer, like this. You can see that that's...
Move it over a little bit more. Here you go.
Which way, that way?
Yeah.
It's a stiffer fiber here. And then I try to grab one that's a little softer. You can see that that bends a little nicer. It's a little softer of a herl. And for this fly, I only need the 2. Lots of flies call for more. I'm going to trim off these super thick and solid ends. Tie these in. There we go. Sort of looser spirals at first. I'm going to make sure I get it where I want it. I am going to come in here and trim these butt ends with my amazing cuticle trimmers. Man, I love these things. And they're really inexpensive. Amazing tools for cutting close, which you need to do more of than I ever would have expected here. So here's the kicker. A lot of folks, and probably traditionally, you would take these 2 peacock herl fibers and you would just start wrapping around your shank. You'd kind of hold them together and do similar to what we did with these goose feather fibers and just start wrapping them around together. Because there's 2 of them, there's a little more bulk. You'd get a little more dense a peacock herl wrap. What I'm going to do is first wrap forward here. Second technique that a lot of people like to do to get a little denser and more fluffy material here for wrapping is they'll take these 2 fibers and they'll just twist them together like this, kind of, making a rope style. And that works. It gives you a little more durability in your peacock herl. It's great. I'm, a little more I prefer, I'll be able to take any more questions you have, to wrap individually like this. And what I find is when I have a thicker, more solid fiber and a softer fiber, the softer fiber will naturally wrap around the thicker fiber. And what I get is essentially a peacock herl chenille like material. And it is wonderfully fluffy, wonderfully uniform, and it really highlights the hurl because it splays out and reflects the light really beautifully. This hurl, by the way, is meant to imitate, little legs, little insect legs and bits and parts. And so that light reflecting off these is really important.
Do you have inflows, or do you have info on the tides you fly, like the regions they're often used, set seasons, etc.?
I do. I won't say for every fly that I know exactly where and what season to use them without doing further research. I don't have an encyclopedia in my head of that knowledge, although I hope to one of these days. But I do look up target species. I typically try often to match the season with the time of year that I tie the fly and post it. I don't always. Sometimes I tie them because they're pretty and I like them, or they're interesting and gross and I like them, like the grub I tied. But yeah, as far as seasonality goes, I try to match them, and it makes good sense to do so because that's what people tend to be searching for in that season. But that's actually a good suggestion for me to sort of have that knowledge on standby as I go forward when I'm tying a fly, for sure.
David said, great tip, thanks. Twisting said would increase durability as well.
Yeah, and look, David, if you can see, hopefully you can see how uniform that is. It looks kind of like a chenille. There are faux peacock herl chenille products out there, and they're great for what they are. I just have such a love for the natural fiber that if I can use it, I'm going to. So that's what I've done here. And again, this takes a while, so strap in because we're chenille making for a bit here. But I get really excited about the end result. Tried it all three ways, and this way just stands out. I love those colors. I can see it shining. I do want to take a moment here to mention, I have a friend, Brian Smith. He's got a channel, The Fly Smith. He's also on Instagram. If you're here, you may already know of him. He's pretty phenomenal. He started a couple of years before I did. Didn't know of him when I started my Instagram account, and it's funny because our handles are very similar. But Brian has been hugely successful here on YouTube, creating videos of flies that he ties, and he also does a good amount of research and talks about some of the flies that he's tying, who originated them, if there's any interesting information about those flies. And he's the one that kind of mentioned that YouTube Live is an interesting way to go here. And so I want to give a quick shout out to Brian because he's been a wonderful source of information for me, a source of inspiration for me in a lot of ways, and kind of pointed me in the YouTube Live direction. So go check him out. He's pretty phenomenal. His Instagram tag is _ ties flies _ and I think he's the Fly Smith here on YouTube.
B. Rice, have you ever fished the Great Lakes or West Coast for Pacific salmon? It's that time of year in the Great Lakes region.
I have not, and it sounds phenomenal. Alex back here is from Michigan.
Represent.
But I haven't made it up there very often. I made it up and saw, which lake was it? Lake Michigan? Mm-hmm. For the first time last year. And I was floored because it looked like an ocean. But it's on my bucket list, along with Patagonia, Tierra del Fuego. All right, so hackle pliers. I'm just pinching off the end of this peacock chenille, for lack of a better word, and I'm going to wrap this material in touching wraps, and that's just to get a nice dense wrap going. Maybe one more. Okay. And here, what I like to do is reposition my fly just a little bit, because gravity is gravity. And I want my thread to play nice while I'm doing all of this work here. All right. Hopefully, and I don't know how the lighting is for you guys, but hopefully you can see how much like a holiday garland that looks. It's just so shiny and reflective. It's really cool. The light refracts off of these fibers really well. I think we get so used to peacocks because they're fairly common, we forget how like unbelievably gorgeous they are. So I'm going to pull back some of these fibers. And just start to build a little head on here. Then I'm going to take, and this part always gets fiddly. I've made, I don't know, 6 or 7 of these today in an effort to get them consistent across the board. And this part always gets interesting, so we'll give it a go. But I'm going to fold these fibers over, and they're going to be my wing casing. I'm going to be a little gross and use just a little bit of spit to help these fibers lay down on top. Thank you. Pull over. I find if I push on the top, the fibers kind of split apart on top. They don't like to stay together, but if I pinch, I'm good.
Brian wants to know if peacocks are common in Tampa.
I see them. I don't think they're wild or native to Tampa, but people have them as pets.
I thought he meant peacock bass.
Oh. Peacock bass, no, South Florida. Peacock birds, yes, people have them as pets. I think I saw one run across the road the other day, and I thought, oh, look at those feathers. You know, I pay good money for those feathers. But they're not native to Florida, or maybe they are. I don't know. I have some family that has some, they roost in their trees, and they have a whole herd of peacocks. If you've never, not native. Thank you, Jamie. But if you've ever heard a peacock cry, it is not how you expect that bird to sound. It's a really interesting sound, for sure. All right, tying down these fibers. and creating a nice little slightly rounded head here. That looks pretty good. And here is my deep dark secret. Just kidding, it's not a secret. You all know I'm new at fly tying, started in January, but until recently, I really was challenged with whip finishing, which is tying a flat, sort of low profile knot with this tool, or I think you can do it with your hands too. But... Oh,
Yeah, perfect.
There you go. Shout out to Keaton Anderson over at Tampa Fishing Outfitters for sitting with me for a minute and helping me understand this. So I'm starting to get the whip finish now.
Butter spreads that make me one so I can try to hook my future wife.
Make you a fly. I tell you what, I have met more cool women through tying flies. There are a lot of women out there that appreciate this particular art form or skill.
Murph.
Oh, that's Murphy. He's our cat.
I got him.
He probably found a piece of fly tying material on the floor that he's playing with.
Yeah, a screw. He wants to go out.
Okay. All right. We're nearing the end of this fly, but what I am going to do is brush back these peacock fibers for a minute. So that I can use the Solarez Bone Dry to finish this head.
Show it to the camera up front. I just want to see if that grabs focus a little closer.
Does it? I feel like a beauty blogger.
That just. Anyway, oh, there it goes.
There it didn't?
It's starting when you do that.
See, that's why they do the hands.
All right, it's kind of in, but it'll work.
All right. So this is a UV cured, very thin UV finish, and it cures quickly. So again, I'm going to start on the underneath here. My favorite thing about this particular resin is how thin the applicator brush is, so that I can be very, very precise with my placement. And I have to be fast because otherwise things get sloppy. UV light cures in 10 seconds. I hit the bottom first for a couple of reasons. Number one, I'm not going to build quite as much of a UV profile at the bottom as I will at the top. But secondly, that's where that whip finished knot is, and I want to make sure I encapsulate that pretty quickly before I move on. And I could probably douse this thing and do this really fast, but I think why be so precise for the entire thing just to slop it on at the end.
I bought the loom stuff when I got started, and I'm stuck with it. It always cures sticky if you don't bake it in the sun's rays.
Okay, so there is a trick there, I think, depending on your application. If it's something like this and you need, very little product and a very low profile, this probably won't work for you. But in a lot of my videos, I use a no-wipe UV gel top coat. Yeah, it's in the white bottle. It's for women's fingernails. but it cures completely non-tacky. So you can put down your base of your loom product, and then you could do just a quick top coat of this no wipe top coat and get a non-sticky finish. I don't know if you can see that. I'll do it down here.
Yeah, hold on, let me change. Over a little bit. Yeah, well, back, yeah.
All right, so it's been no wipe. And any of the ladies on here or gentlemen who've had their nails done in the past may remember that it used to be that they'd put the top coat on and then cure it, and then it was sticky and they had to actually wipe it with an alcohol wipe. And that's why they're calling it no wipe, because it cures completely non-sticky without that byproduct of that film. All right, that's our fly, the Gray Goose Midge Emerger. Yeah, I'll give her a twirl here. And I'll give her a little brush because I love to brush them out when I'm done. If anybody has any more questions, I'm happy to answer. And otherwise, we'll wrap up for tonight, and I'll call it a success with all the new equipment and with Alex on camera and audio. That didn't sound too bad.
I'm gonna do it one more time. I was on you. One more.
Do the what? The flip?
The flip.
Okay.
David said, great job.
There we go.
Cool.
All right. Let me know if you want to see a different fly next time. I'm going to start doing these lives more often. This has been a lot of fun. Normally I'm pretty stoic and pretty quiet while I'm doing this, so it's sort of cathartic to talk through it as I'm doing it.
If they want us to do anything in particular.
Yeah, absolutely. We want and welcome input, feedback. If there's something you want to see, if there's a format you'd like to see, something you'd like to hear, let us know. We're open to suggestions. We're on sort of this adventure together, and we can't tell you how much we appreciate you being here, and everybody on all platforms that's viewed our content and taken the time out of their day. We really appreciate it. It's been a lot of fun.
All right, we can wrap it up.
All right.
Personally, thank you. Great job. Great show. Loved it. Hello. Yeah, we can wrap it up.
Okay. Thank you so much, everybody. I'll see you next time.